Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. If you are tuning in live on the MYBC Consulting Facebook page tonight for another edition of the MYBC Virtual Bookstore Author Series. You know, I was sharing with my guest author tonight, Irene Wignall, that I started this back in December 2020, almost a year now, recognizing that when you surround yourself with books and dig yourself into a book, whether it's a fiction book or nonfiction book, it'll take you to places that you've never been before, and it'll take you to learnings that you've never experienced before, and on a new path and a new journey. So I am super duper, number one, impressed, and number two, grateful to Irene Wignall for coming to us live at 3 a.m. in Greater Manchester, England. Good. I was saying before we got on, good night if you're a party animal. Good morning if you're an early bird. So good evening, Irene, and welcome.
Hi, thanks, Jeanette. Thanks for having me.
We met, I think, through Women's Net networking through our good friend. Yeah. I just lost her name now.
Alexa.
Alexa. Oh my gosh, she's going to shoot me if ever we meet, because I know she's in your neck of the woods. And so let's just talk a little bit. What is or who is Irene Wignall versus being an author first? So who are you?
I am a detective in the police, in Greater Manchester Police. I'm a mum to boys, a wife to Adam, and we've got Barney the dog, who's confused because it's 3 o'clock and I'm up, so he's trying to get outside, and Flip-Flop the cat. So yeah, we've got a pretty busy life, but yeah, that's me.
So you're still a police officer?
Yes, start at 7 a.m. this morning, so we've got another 5 hours before I start police work.
So what landed you in the police force? I think in your bio you sent me 23 years ago. What landed you in that particular career?
I didn't. It wasn't a job that I'd always wanted to do. I was 23, and then realised I wanted a job with security. And I was going through jobs that I could get security with, and the police force is one of those that you basically join and you do 30 years. And I thought, yeah, I could do that. So I applied, and as the sort of process went on and I was passing each part, I thought, oh, actually, I'd quite like this. So yeah, it's different every day. So.
Wow. And what are some of the positions that you've held in the police force?
So I started in uniform, and that was working in the city centre of Manchester. So it's a very busy city centre. And I was in uniform for about 4 years. And then I went into CID and became a detective. And I've had, in the 23 years, I've had quite a varied career, and I've dealt with serious crime, with armed robberies, dealt with... at the moment, I'm in economic crime unit, which is fraud. So yeah, I've had quite a diverse career, which is good because it keeps things interesting.
So that leads me to picking up a pen or putting your fingers to a keyboard and writing your first book. What prompted you to do that?
Yeah, that was another thing that was never on my radar. I wasn't.
I read your website, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah. I started writing initially because my second son, Dusty, was stillborn. And at the time I had Ted, my first son, at home, and he was 14 months old. So I realised that I was going to have to start doing something so I didn't go under, because I had no choice. I had to carry on for my 14-month-old son. So I started writing 3 things I was grateful for each day. And sometimes there'd be funny things, sometimes there'd be quite major things, like I didn't cry that day. And then, like, Ted was a delight. He was 14 months old, so he was doing new things every day. So I just focused on them to get me through it. And I quite enjoyed the process. It was a bit like therapy without the cost. And then I had my third son, Albie. And I called them the Stinks because I never expected to have boys. I always imagined having girls. So
I love that. Almost thought I was reading something to do with Dr. Seuss, like thing one and thing stinks or something.
Yeah, that's it. I started a blog then, the Stinky Stories, because I do like to make people laugh, and I think just because something traumatic has happened, it doesn't mean that you can't laugh again. So I started with the blog, and I was thoroughly enjoying that. And I thought, and then when the lads were 2 and 4 year old, I got diagnosed with a brain tumor, and I had brain surgery in 2019, and I had 6 months off work, and I thought, right, okay, if ever I was going to write a book, this is the time to do it. So in that 6 months off work, I wrote my first book.
Wow. And what is the unique title of your first book?
It's called Look for the Effin Rainbows.
Wow, you know what? When I go rainbow hunting, I never think of the word effin in there. So that is fantastic. Where did that name come from?
I think because everybody tells you to be positive, and it's hard to be positive every day. And it's not normal. It's not normal to be positive every day. So if you didn't have these lows, you wouldn't appreciate the highs. So it's like no matter what life throws at you, there might be a little snippet, and it might be very, very faint, but something good that you can take out of it. So that's where that phrase came from.
And what's the style of the book? What's between the pages?
It's very much like us now having a chat. It's easy reading. A lot of people have said when they've listened to to my voice since reading the book, they can imagine just sitting having a cup of tea and chatting. So it's very honest. When my first son was born, I didn't bond with him. I expected a big rush of love, and it didn't happen. So I talk about that. I talk about my relationship with alcohol, and since then I've gone teetotal. And it's honest. But it's funny, and obviously there's sad moments in it as well. But that's real life, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I might put you on the spot here for a second. Where have you found the biggest effin' rainbow in your life?
One of the things is since having the brain surgery, I'm deaf in one side.
Oh.
So the positives to that is that I live in a house full of boys, so I can choose when to zone out, and sort of cover my other ear, and I'll be just nodding. But yeah, I say that in jest, but when I had brain surgery, there was so many things that could have gone wrong. The risks I were taking, and just to be deaf in one side, it's like I class myself as quite lucky. Things could have been a lot different. So that's quite a big effing rainbow. I'm sure there'd be others if I could think about it.
I just love this topic. You may or may not know, because we've just recently met in the last couple of 4 months, networking overseas. Is I'm the creator, one of the 2 co-founders of the Gratitude and Appreciation Summits, and that is your story is exactly what we bring people together to talk about, to hear each other's story and just the modality. And you've just taken those 3 gratitude statements every single day to get you through the day, instead of looking at something externally to get you through the day, is looking through the gratitude statements. And there is one of our sponsors, Monica Hodkins. She's gone through a couple of brain tumors and surgeries and come out the other side. And she's one of the most incredible, grateful, kindest, giving back kind of person. So I'd love for the 2 of you to connect up, because I'm sure you'd have some beautiful stories to share. I just think this is amazing how you're halfway around the world and we're able to share stories. And normally I say to people, if you've got questions for Irene, put it into the chat. She'll come back in later and take a look if there's any questions to answer. I do like to stay present for the authors that I chat with, because their presence is their gift to me, and I'm so grateful. So now we move on to book number 2, and book number 2 is called what?
It's called Look for the Effing Rainbows, a self-help guide, not really.
Oh, okay. So these titles are fantastic. So not self-help book, not really. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that came from reading the reviews basically from my first book, and I realized that people I helped people in my first book, so they weren't necessarily going through exactly the same thing that I was going through, but they were going through situations in their life which was big to them. You know, anything that you're going through at the time feels big to you. And they were saying that reading my book put a perspective onto things. So I thought, oh, actually, and I love self-help books. I'm a bit obsessed with self-help books, and so I thought, I've written a self-help book, so I'll continue. So my second book is about living through the lockdown and living through the pandemic. And I've also introduced where other people send me their funny stories, some sad, some funny, about their lives. So yeah, but I thoroughly enjoyed doing that, because I always wondered, was there a second book in me? And people always ask the question, is there a second book there? So I thought, well, I'll just do it. I'll do it in the lockdown.
So let's just go there just for a second. Number one, way to take take an opportunity and turn it into something very tangible. As a frontline person halfway around the world, this is an opportunity. I don't get to ask this question. So how has it been for you being a frontline worker, the police, in this whole pandemic, and living your best life for yourself and your family, but also for your community? So how has that been for you, Irene?
Yeah, I think it's been a struggle, as it has been for a lot, like everybody really. It's the unknown. But myself and my husband have continued to work through lockdown. But luckily for me, my role as a detective is office based at the minute, so
Okay.
I could bring my work home, whereas my husband is a boss in uniform, so he continued to go out. And I think the thing I struggled with during lockdown was obviously the rules and the laws were changing daily, and the police ended up being the brunt of that. You know, they, like, my husband had to go out on the street and sort of instill these new rules and regulations. And you can understand people being frustrated, and when some people weren't adhering to it and some people were. But yeah, and it became a case of there's not many roles as a job that you would get filmed whilst you're doing it on the
Right.
street,
Right.
and that became quite a common practice, a common thing to do, that you would get filmed. And that was quite frustrating, because it was like, we are doing a job, we're doing what we're told to do, but getting the brunt end of it, really. So that bit was hard.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's like I don't get an opportunity to talk to somebody about that part of that position. I'm tripping over my words right now. So you've got a third planner. And by the way, before we get to that, do you happen to have your two books there handy?
I haven't, and if I run upstairs, then I'll probably wake the house up.
Oh, let's not do that then. So let's talk about your next book, because I got to tell you, you said you wrote a planner. Now that's my addiction. I love journals. I have a journal over there. I have a journal in my bathroom. I carry a journal with my purse. There's a journal right by my front door in case I have something I love planners and journals.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the third thing that you've created in this world.
So yeah, I'm like you, Jeanette. I love planners. Another obsession of mine. And I decided to write my it's a Christmas planner. So it's called my How to Keep My SHIT Together at Christmas.
Oh, we can say shit. It's okay. You're allowed to say shit.
Okay. So How to Keep My Shit Together at Christmas.
Ah,
And that again it's about real life. It's so I like a planner, but then sometimes some can be a bit more fluffy and flowery. And I think, right, no, this one tells it as it is. There's useful things in there, all the way through that will help you get through Christmas. So everybody has this expectation of a perfect Christmas, and it never happens. They're always lovely Christmases, but you can never sort of have that perfect Christmas. And I thought it's because it doesn't exist, because your expectations are too high. My expectations are always up here, and the reality is some of the toys that Santa brings, he doesn't actually quite hit the mark. So be prepared for that.
So is it for the month of December only?
Yeah, so it'll be well, it starts on the 1st of November, so it's
Okay.
a lead up to Christmas, budgets, self-care ideas, family days out on a budget before Christmas, getting things ready, like getting the spare chairs out for Christmas Day,
Mm-hmm.
food plans, order, your order for your delivery for food. So it's got everything in it that I could think of that would help me for Christmas. So really, this Christmas, I
Awesome.
have to make sure I have a stress-free Christmas to show that my planner works.
So where can people find your various books and your planner?
They're all on Waterstones. Sorry, they're all on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
They're also, if the 2 books, the first and second book, are also in any good bookstore online. You
Okay.
can order them through them. And I've got a website called lookforrainbows.com.
Okay. Awesome. So to kind of wrap this up, is there a fourth book? I'm calling it a book because anytime you put something between a page, even though the planner, that's still
Yeah.
pen to paper. Is there a fourth book?
I think I'd like to do more planners. I'd like to do
Okay.
a gratitude planner,
Mm-hmm.
but with a bit of attitude. So a gratitude with attitude planner. And I think once the lads are hitting the teenage years, I think there may be loads more stories in there. So it might be a teenage years book. Yeah.
I think it would definitely be a bestseller, and maybe we'll get you involved in the Gratitude and Appreciation Summit next year. So maybe you'll have it up
Brilliant.
by
Yeah.
then. You never know. Stranger things have happened. So this is where I love to ask the authors that come into my life, any parting words that you want to say to somebody out there about creating a book or books.
I'll say this. So thought, I always think, oh, I've not got time to do this. I've not got time to do that. I'm a busy mom. I'm busy at work. But there's 168 hours in a week. There's say you work 40 of those, and you sleep 56 of those, ideally. It leaves 72 hours. Now, 72 hours is a massive amount of hours. So if you think you can't do it, what are you doing with those 72 hours? So it's a case of having a look, getting your planner out and seeing where those hours are going. Because anybody who thinks of writing a book, just start writing. I wasn't great at English at school. I never did English literature. It's just about words. That's it.
Love it. Love it. I've never had that analogy yet for the authors that I have asked that question to. So thank you so much, Irene, for setting your alarm for 3 a.m. to
Right.
chat with me. You're a very special lady, and we'll give a shout out to Alexa again for connecting us up in her women's net where we met. I think it's 8 o'clock in the morning to your 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon when we get together. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you shared your story, and I'm going to look for that planner because this girl loves a good planner. Okay.
Thanks for having me, Jeanette.
Have a good night, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.